Testing the speaker. Oh, I thought I felt you weren't going to be able to make.
I didn't think I was either, but I'm
Well,
not
good.
going to for another hour.
Good.
So
I was just thinking who I was going to get to be the co-host. I'm not sure we're going to have a huge number of people this morning because of the holiday weekend. I've already gotten a few notices that people are out of town. So, but glad to have you. How are things up in Canada? Or have
good,
you been traveling?
good. Emma's visiting, and the weather's nice. It's warm, but not crazy hot.
All right,
Uh,
well, good. It's going to be upper 80s here, but Tori and I are going to go bike riding after
oh,
this. So that'll yeah, it should be nice.
yeah. So yeah, I noticed it's interesting. Yeah, Boulder's not crazy hot yet either.
No, it's not. Well, it got into the 90s several days a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we had that heat wave. We got that heat wave too, and that East Coast heat wave we got.
Yeah. Well, when you guys get, do you have a lot of humidity where you
Oh
are?
yeah, this is yeah.
Okay. Has that been an adjustment for you? How's that going?
Um, last year it was painful. This year it's not so bad. I think it's not as muggy this year as it was last year.
Really?
So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's hard to acclimate to that.
well, I mean, I grew up with it just like you, it's
Yeah. I may end up having to endure it again. Once Sawyer goes off to college, I may move back and take care of my
yeah.
mom. She's in
Um,
her 80s and her health is not great.
mm,
She really does need a lot of help around her house. So I'm thinking of moving back there and kind of taking over and
yeah, that's a tough one.
yeah, but she definitely could use the help, that's for sure. My brother only lives an hour and a half away, but he's completely useless when it comes to assisting my mom with
Yeah,
anything.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. So
What grade is Sawyer in now?
Sawyer is going into he's going to be a junior in high school
Holy
coming
crap. So
year.
he's looking at colleges now.
Yeah, he's already visited the University of Virginia. He's visited, well, he hasn't gotten an official tour at Berkeley, though he did go visit the campus. Um, but we're going to go back east in October, and he might see a few places again then. He also visited Cambridge's campus when we were in England. He really likes Cambridge. And he's going to Oxford August 1st for an academic program there.
Nice.
It's called the Oxford Scholars Program. It's for high school kids. And so that would be an awesome experience for him.
Yeah. Meet people all over the world. So then when he travels, he has places to stay.
I know. I told him make as many friends as you possibly can.
I mean, that's one of the few good things about social media. It's so easy to stay connected with people. And then when you want to travel, you just contact
Oh yeah,
them.
you reach out. I was thinking of going to Europe with him, but I really, needed to. I really couldn't afford staying in hotels, so I was looking at this website where you can pet sit for free
Mhm.
lodging. Um, and so I got on there. So I was thinking about doing that, but I think I'm just going to hold off
You're
till
not doing a tour this year.
what's that? No, well, I'm thinking about doing a tour late October or early November. I'm going to have thank you for reminding me that. Actually, I got to do a quick slide. I got to add a slide here. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to quickly make a slide.
Do you want to close your curtains a little bit? Actually, you don't care. You're not sleeping this tonight, right?
Let's see. What day is Tuesday? Let's see. Today's the 6th, so it would be 8th.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad that sparked my.
Good morning, Waverly. Good morning, Asnot.
Hello,
I haven't
Mercedes. How are
forgotten about
you?
you, Mercedes.
I'm sorry, you're both speaking at once, so I don't know what either of you said.
I said, I haven't forgotten about you.
Oh, that's okay, Asnot. I'm ready to just totally give up.
Oh no, Mercedes, you are unforgettable. In fact,
No, no,
I've
no,
got
no,
that
no.
song.
Asnot and you have different contexts. Asnot was going to help me start my blog,
Oh,
and I'm having technical difficulties. Um, Yeah, no, I'm diving deep into mystical healing of illnesses, so I'm not giving up.
don't ever give up. I'm glad you're giving it 100%.
I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I just keep going and going.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, all right. Well, good. I'm glad we have at least two. I'm really curious to see how many people show up. Oh, we got Sawyer on. Okay.
Well, Sawyer should get a waiting factor because he's important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I do think he's joining partly because he knows I'll ask him why he didn't join if he doesn't make an appearance. So poor kid. He's probably doing something else while he's
No,
got
I'm not.
all he's gonna.
Don't worry.
Okay, well, we'll see. I'm gonna quiz you afterwards, Sawyer. Okay, so get ready.
You quiz me even when I do pay attention.
Is that
Well, I know, but sometimes you can't answer the questions, the basic questions I asked. So it's obvious that you were thinking about something else while I was talking. And that's at the in-person meetings when you're right there. So, yeah, we'll see. All right. Got a few more. We got about 5 more minutes before we start. Here's Patrick. Good deal. Teresa is back from her trip. She has a brand new grandbaby.
yeah.
Who we got to meet last week. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So what was the trip you were thinking of this year, Waverly?
Well, I'm thinking of going to
Portugal.
Philadelphia. I wanted to go to
Oh,
Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. I'm playing Washington, D.C. in the spring, but that would mean, well, then if I wanted to do Philly, I'd have to do it real quick in the late fall. Um, but even in early November, the weather in Philly is still pretty nice. It's not like here where you could get a snowfall.
well, you just never know. And especially now, you just can't count on the weather anytime.
Well, another thing I've noticed back east, it used to be that leaves changed late October.
Yeah,
Back east, now they don't change till really late November. It's moved almost an entire month later. And that's just in the past few decades.
that's right. But that's also if you don't get like some kind of storm that knocks all the leaves out. And
Yeah.
yeah, Philadelphia has a lot of nice stuff. I really like Philadelphia.
Oh, I love Philadelphia. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think it's
me
very
too.
underappreciated. And I have a friend who lives in Boston, and well, it's a long story, but I keep telling him he should look at moving to Philadelphia because it's so much more affordable than the other East Coast cities for some reason. I don't know why that is.
Oh, really? It is?
Oh yeah, it's way cheaper than
Well, obviously New York
DC
City.
and pardon me?
Yeah, it's going to be cheaper than New York City, but Washington D.C. is expensive, very expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In Boston, it's expensive. So, but I think the quality of life is, and that core part of Philadelphia is actually not that big. You can walk everywhere. They've got great public transit.
Oh, it's true. You're absolutely right.
And,
Yeah.
you can live right downtown. In a way, it's even easier than, say, a city like New York. I mean, the grocery stores are there, the hospitals, because he needs hospitals too. He's got some health issues. And the art is phenomenal.
Oh, the
And
art is incredible. It's near all the great cultural centers of the East Coast.
well, he lives in Boston. He never takes
Well,
advantage.
Boston's not close to anything really, but yeah,
Yeah,
New York,
and the weather's
DC,
better.
Baltimore, yeah, the weather's better. It's not that far from the ocean.
No.
Um,
And it's right on the water.
yeah, the river right there is great. Lots of great city parks.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting a few.
Well, there you go. Well, you're getting your regular crowd.
Our regular cronies. Yep. Kyle's with us. Good deal. All right, so far to those of you who've arrived, welcome to Osnot, my co-host, Mercedes and Verona, Berta, Kate and Mike, Kyle, Marco, Patrick and Teresa, and Sawyer. We'll get started in a couple minutes here. Glad you could join us. Hopefully you had a great July 4th. Anybody doing anything special today? Sawyer and I are going to go out bicycling and then go from there. We're not sure what it will do afterwards. Anybody doing anything exciting today besides nothing?
You doing anything exciting today, Anna?
Does going to the grocery store count?
No.
Okay.
That's
Depends
not
on the
very
grocery
adventurous,
store.
I'm
Verona.
going to have a shower.
Well, that could be an adventure for you, Mercedes. I don't know. I don't
I'm afraid it is usually, yes.
Teresa and I are going up to Longmont to see my son and his family.
Oh, cool. You're going to grill out up there?
No, I'm actually gonna get pizza.
Oh, good for you. Sawyer and I had that yesterday. Hey, real quick, since I got you on, what do you want me to bring to grill on Wednesday?
I I think Teresa's gonna handle that.
Oh, well, let me,
Um,
I'll just have to talk to Teresa. She's on here. Teresa, unmute yourself if you can. She's on her iPhone, so I don't know. She might be out and about.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Waverly,
Yes,
uh, don't forget about the easels.
that's right. Yeah. I think I put that in my calendar. Let's see. If I haven't, I'll make sure it's in there.
You might put them in your car immediately after this meeting.
Let's see, Wednesday. What is this? Um, let's see. Okay. Bring easels to. Okay, I've got two reminders for myself, so it should be good here.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to drive back to Boulder to get them.
I wouldn't drive back to Boulder to get them. Yes, you're right. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Teresa, will you mute? Osnot, will you mute everybody but me here? And then as soon as that's done, I will share my screen. Let's do that share. Da-da. All right, everybody. Well, glad you could join me on this 4th of July weekend for another edition of Art Brunch. I do want to make this announcement. I want to do an art pilgrimage inquiry meeting to Philadelphia and or DC. That's going to be this Tuesday, July 8th. I'm going to give you two options, 10 a.m. or 4 p.m. Please, 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 if you are interested in attending that, then let me know which time you prefer. Okay, 10 a.m. or 4 p.m. Tuesday. We are going to discuss a possible trip to Philadelphia late October or early November this year to see if that's even possible for you. If you do have interest in the trip, but just can't do it this fall, then I might push it back to spring and then push the DC trip a little later. But that's something I want to discuss with you who are interested in that trip. So I'll have all the particulars for you on Tuesday so you'll know exactly what to expect, the costs, what sort of things we'll be doing for both trips. So again, put that in your calendar and let me know, those of you who are interested in that art pilgrimage and want to attend, let me know which time you prefer, 10 or 4, okay? All right, we're continuing our series, Art Meccas of the Americas. We have this week and then next week we'll end our series, but this week it's Santiago de Chile. Now, Santiago de Chile is nestled in the shadow of the Andes. I provided a little map there in the top right corner so you have an idea of exactly where it's located. It's emerged as one of Latin America's most dynamic art centers. It's a city where tradition, resistance, these are common themes in Latin American art centers, tradition, resistance, and reinvention coalesce really to this vibrant cultural tapestry. Once seen primarily as a political hub or an economic powerhouse, Santiago is increasingly recognized for its flourishing art scene. Deep-rooted mural traditions, murals are very popular, as you know, in Latin America, and institutions that both preserve but also challenge Chilean identity. Today, Santiago, let's see, yeah, it's got a bunch of galleries, museums, and independent art spaces that support emerging artists, but also established artists and also classic works. Now, the two biggies in Santiago are the Museo Nacional de Belle Art and the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo. Beautiful buildings, by the way, don't you think? Additionally, the rise of art fairs, such as the Contemporary Art Fair of Chile, has really placed Santiago on the international art map. It attracts collectors and curators from all over the world. They visit this place. These platforms have helped launch the careers of many contemporary Chilean artists whose works confront social inequality, no surprise probably, memory, and urban transformation. Now, I mentioned murals already. Beyond the formal museums, Santiago thrives as an open-air museum. Neighborhoods such as the Barrio Yungue, the Bella Vista, and the San Miguel are renowned for their expansive street art. Really, almost every road you go down, there are murals that you can see. Now, much of the murals are a celebration of everyday life in Chile. They're joyous. There are also vibrant expressions of ethnic identity and resistance, political resistance particularly. Street art has become a prominent medium for expressing political dissent in Chile. Murals often depict powerful images against government repression and social injustices. Any of you know the history of Chile and really South America in general know that they kind of vacillate between socialism and fascism and autocracy. And artists utilize then public spaces to protest, to resist, to reach broader audiences, transforming urban landscapes into really forums for discussion. Now, the Museo a Cielo Abierto on San Miguel, that translates to the Open Air Museum of San Miguel, really is a unique sort of organization, it showcases murals that engage directly with local histories and collective memory because the art is spread around various neighborhoods. It's not in one location. These works not only beautify, they also democratize art because they're often in lower socioeconomic neighborhoods. And they offer visual narratives that reflect the lived experiences of these marginalized communities. In this set, Santiago's art scene is not confined to white walls, it's embodied in the very fabric of the city. All right, so that's a quick overview of the art scene. But let's begin with some of the oldest art, much of which is at the Natural History Museum there. Chilean art dates back to the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century. That's the official beginning. But as we all know, before the Spanish arrived, they were indigenous people with their own artistic traditions. These indigenous cultures, such as the Mapuche, who really make up 85% of the indigenous culture, the Mapuche significantly influenced early artistic expressions. Their name means the land people, Mapuche. Mapuche art is deeply rooted in their worldview and cosmology, reflecting their relationship with nature and the spiritual realm. The art often incorporates geometric designs. These are symbols. And then also these vibrant colors, they also hold specific meanings related to their beliefs and traditions. As we know, that's clearly seen in their pottery designs. Now notice the shaman's drum in the top right there. Let's focus in on it. The land, as with many indigenous cultures, has always been a central core of Mapuche life and belief. This view is represented by this ritual drum. The ritual drum is symbolic of the tiered cosmos that they inhabit. Each of the designs is according to a particular community's knowledge and spiritual strength of this cosmos or surrounding this cosmos. The circular shape of this drum symbolizes the world infinitum. The cross on its surface indicates the spaces into which the world is divided, the four natural and spiritual positive and negative strengths that correspond to the east, the north, the south, and really the sea or the west. But they refer to it as not the west, but the sea. The central part contains the core and strength that sustains equilibrium among the vertical spaces formed by the land above on the surface where the beneficial deities and the old ancestors live, the land downward where we live, all the living, both good and bad are, and then the underworld, the underneath, where there are both good and evil spirits dwelling. Now, those of you who know your Genesis 1 cosmology, this is a three-tiered cosmos corresponding to the Genesis 1 cosmos, the upper world, this inhabited world, and the underworld. Nature, life, and the astral zone then are coordinated in a circular space that represents eternity and makes life possible in a world where, listen to this, in a world where good and evil live in communion. Evil is not denied, it is integrated in their cosmology. Now, the colonial era saw the emergence of religious art, obviously, primarily focused on Catholic themes, obviously. Miguel de Santiago is considered one of the most noteworthy painters of the entire colonial period. Miguel de Santiago raised Latin American painting to a very high level, as you can see, leaving behind a great number of fine paintings. His work is on the left, by the way, just to make that clear. But notice on the right the pre-Columbian mace headpiece. It depicts two water serpents. I wanted you to compare these two. Notice in the painting by Miguel de Santiago, it features Mary stepping on the serpent of chaos. Well, in pre-Columbian mythology, There is a serpent of chaos as well as a serpent of the land that brings order and life. And those are depicted in battle on that mace. Do you see them? The serpent of chaos is known as Kai. It's a water serpent, and it's responsible for floods and disasters. Tren is the earth serpent, protects humanity by raising the land to prevent it from being submerged by water caused by Kai. Now, this work is a non-religious showing the social system in colonial Chile. In this painting by Vicente Alban, the white woman or Spanish woman wears an array of exquisite textiles. Look at them. A string of pearls and other jewels such as a gold crucifix and an oval reliquary to signal that she is Catholic, which in this painting means that she is civilized. Now, her black slave, which is a status symbol, by the way, if you own slaves, that represented your high status. The slave is more modestly, but still lavishly bedecked and is depicted barefoot. Now, worth noting in this painting are the black flowers of the noble woman's skirt. Do you see them? They're also on her hat. A scientific analysis has shown that these flowers were originally painted in silver, a feature that would have bolstered the image of the colony as a land of unsurpassable riches. Not to mention that that's what was mined there. Now, the independence movement in the 19th century sparked new themes in art, emphasizing national identity. This work by native Chilean Manuel Antonio Caro depicts Chilean independence leader Bernardo O'Higgins, definitely of mixed race there, Bernardo O'Higgins, who freed Chile from Spanish rule in the Chilean War of Independence. For those history buffs, the Chilean War of Independence was roughly 1818 to 1826. And this work, also located in Santiago, is by Alejandro Sicarelli. The painting depicts a panoramic view of Santiago. It is from the Peñalolén, which is an area situated on a mountainside of the Andes. So we have that perspective. And the artist depicts himself in the center of the painting, painting this painting. Quite unique, quite novel. Now notice that the Chilean art of the 19th century is steeped in classical realism. Here's the previous work. Classical realism with also a touch of romanticism. That bright sun, certainly a symbol. But that's going to change in the next century, the 20th century. Juan Francisco González Escobar is known as one of the four great Chilean masters and as the archetypal sort of romantic bohemian artist of the early 20th century. He was also the most prolific. He left an estimated 4,000 works behind when he died. He was also notable for being one of Chile's first modern painters. He was seen as a symbol of the new creative generation that appeared in the 20th century in Chile, with a style obviously influenced by Impressionism, but also local elements. He loved to paint the unique architecture of Chilean cities. Now on the right, look at that. I love portals of all kinds. For me, portals are metaphors for an invitation to another world. Now, Chilean art has been shaped by the influences of many eras and cultures, just like we saw throughout these presentations before, particularly in Latin America. They embraced European influence. They didn't shun it. And just like artists throughout the American countries, all of them, many Chilean artists made the pilgrimage to Paris during the early 20th century. And in Santiago, Chile, a group of these artists returned, and they called themselves Grupo Montparnasse because they hung out with the Parisian artists in the neighborhood of Montparnasse in Paris during the 20s and 30s. And when they returned, they began to promote modernist art in Chile. Now look at Henrietta Petit's painting. She was one of the co-founders of that group. I can see the influence of Cézanne in Seated Woman. Can you see that? Or what influences do you see? Now, one of the more prominent members of the Gruppo Montparnasse was Camillo Mori, who is not only a painter, but a theater designer, and one of the most prolific and multifaceted avant-garde artists in Chile. Now, I want you to notice his style in this work. This is 1923, how he depicts the boxer, and then just 5 years later, after a trip to Europe, this has become his style. The Traveler, La Viajera, is the result of Mori's first experiments with European trends, especially those that emerged after Cézanne. The Traveler captures the essence, I think, of travel, of exploration. It is a portrait of his wife, Maruja Vargas Rosas. She was also an artist. The portrait represents a passenger on a train in the heyday of rail travel in Chile. The train became a symbol of emancipation for Chilean women because the train allowed women to move freely from one place to another in the midst of their struggle for the women's right to vote in Chile. Now, this particular painting is Mori's best-known work. It's been widely reproduced on everything from postage stamps to school books to calendars and postcards. Now, notice the expression on the woman's face. To me, she seems a little sad, lost in deep thought. What do you think she is thinking about? Here's another depiction of a sad woman from the palette of Camillo Mori. Perhaps she also is on a train. It's from a later period in Mori's oeuvre. Mori's work often incorporated themes of identity and displacement, which resonated with the Chilean experience. He was instrumental in promoting Chilean art internationally, influencing future generations. He's recognized for his innovative techniques and emotional depth in his artworks. Now, some of you may have heard of this next artist. He's probably one of the most famous Chilean artists, Roberto Mata. He was one of Chile's seminal figures in surrealism and abstraction. Born in Santiago, he too made the trek to Paris, this time, though later than the rest, in 1933. And then he visited other art centers in Europe, as well as visited the United States and New York. During his travels, he met artists like Achille Gorky, René Magritte, Salvador Dali, and André Breton. He also met Pablo Picasso and Marcel Duchamp. Now, this particular work depicts a labyrinth of architectural structures seen from various perspectives and also has contorted humanoid-like figures. Like many artists at the time, Mata expressed distress at the state of the world, one ravaged by World War II. His paintings from this period are called social morphologies. Social morphologies. They address the societal crisis that he felt he was being with, as the title of this painting suggests. Now, in the years following the deployment of the atomic bomb and rapid technological advances in the United States, Mata moved away from his earlier surrealist focus on psychoanalysis and towards a fascination with science and humanity's place within the cosmos. Synthesizing these diverse influences, Mata embarked in an explosive new direction from the late 1940s onwards. abandoning his early intimate morphologies for these eruptive atmospheric compositions that you see here. Now, I found this description on the Sotheby's website for this particular painting. I'll just read it in full. On the edge of a dream unfolds across the vast canvas with a dynamic interplay of biomorphic forms, fiery bursts of color, and intricate linear details. At the left, a mechanical, I see more than one, insect-like figures with a metallic sheen seem to radiate energy outwards, casting silvery tendrils in all directions, like a cosmic waterfall. And to the right, a constellation of spherical forms and spiky starburst shapes evokes a sense of galactic explosion. Their luminous greens, blues, and oranges pulsating against the murky background. The fluidity of the forms and the rhythmic energy of the composition recall surrealist automatism, yet it also bears the gestural intensity of the New York school painters who knew Mata in his first years in New York. Now, this painting is quite a large work, but it's not only large, it also blurs the boundaries between dream and reality. Now, this work actually resides in Israel, not Santiago, but it's a good example of the influence of both Picasso's Cubism as well as Surrealism on the artist's later style. At the time he painted this, he had actually settled in Rome, Italy, and he entered a fertile new ground for exploration. Now, in this work, three figures, machines and humans, seem to merge. Are the people being overtaken by technology or fighting technology? What do you think this painting represents? Now, Roberto Mata's style changed again during his last years. In this massive, massive mural celebrating Salvador Allende's socialist government in Chile, Mata depicts cartoonish figures which also reflect the influence of indigenous styles of depicting humans. Now, as you can see, it's not in great condition. There is a reason for that, which I'll mention in a little bit. Let's zoom in a little closer so you get an idea of these figures influenced by indigenous styles of art. Chile's tumultuous political history had a profound impact on its artistic expression. On the 11th of September 1973, the first democratically elected socialist president in Latin America, Salvador Allende, was overthrown by a military coup. This led to public outcry and protests globally, including protests at the 1974 Venice Biennale and in London, where a number of socially engaged artists founded the Artists for Democracy and hosted a festival for democracy in Chile. The great sense of euphoria that Allende's presidency represented was replaced by General Augusto Pinochet's authoritarian regime, during which time artists either fled from Chile or sought alternate ways to make their voices heard. One of these artists was Lottie Rosenfeld. She used public space and conceptual art to challenge Pinochet's authoritarian control. Rosenfeld is best remembered for her 1979 performance work, A Mile of Crosses on the Pavement. In a video documenting the performance, Rosenfeld is seen kneeling along Santiago's Avenida Moncahu, that's just Moncahu Avenue, as she measures a piece of cloth against the street's dotted dividing lines. She then turns her fabric to be perpendicular with the lines and adheres them to the street, creating crosses. Rosenfeld repeats the action over and over again until the avenue's traffic lines are rendered illegible. Traffic lines being a system of control made useless now. Santiago became then the epicenter of these interventions, a living gallery of protest, where the street was reclaimed as a canvas. And this legacy endures in the city's enduring commitment to politically engaged art today. Now, after Pinochet took over, his regime painted over Roberto Matta's grand mural dedicated to Allende with 16 layers of paint. The mural was later rediscovered and restored in 2008, or at least restored to the best of the restorer's ability, and proudly displayed, despite its condition, at the City Hall near Santiago. And that's why it's in the condition it is, because 16 layers of paint had to be scraped off of it. Now, school children are now invited to view the work, which helps them engage with Chilean traditions while also learning about how politics affects cultural expression. Now, I would like to close this art brunch with one of Chile's most distinguished contemporary artists. The variously talented Violeta Parra became the first Latin American artist of any gender, of either gender really, at the Museum of Decorative Arts at the Louvre in Paris in 1964. The first Latin American artist. She started her career now as a musician, folk singer really, and a composer. But she was also a visual artist in both sculpture and painting, and many of her most popular works were embroidered on burlap. Like this one, referencing one of the trees in the Garden of Eden. Here in this work, beauty of vegetation and flowers emerge from the dark trunk. A bird appears resting on a hand appearing from the left side. Now there's this enigmatic head on the right, which is somehow connected to the dark trunk. And I'm not sure if that dark trunk represents the darkness of this world that, even though it is dark, still can produce the beauty of vegetation and flowers. I don't know. I'd like to invite you to look at this work and come up with your own interpretation. What ideas pop to mind when you look at this work? And if you would, and if you're able, take some notes, because I'd like to hear your impressions of it during the Q&A. Now, in this work, an old man carries a flower, again, a flower, and flowers sprout from his hat as well. Flowers appear in almost all of her art. So they must carry symbolic meaning. And what I discovered is that in her work, flowers are symbolizing many things like love, loss, hope, growth, but above all, the beauty of the natural world as a means of solace during hard times. Let's move on. Look at the title of this work. It makes clear that it's protest art. 4 figures, again, each holding a bird and flowering vegetation sprouting from their heads. So those symbols, again. This was a very strange work for me to understand. I don't know about you. What sort of thoughts come to mind about this work? Again, it is protest art. It's titled Against the War. Perhaps those are then doves that they're holding, representing peace. And the vegetation growing from the heads represent hope or the search for beauty in the midst of great ugliness. Then there's the bird at the end of that rifle next to the green person. Looks like it may have been shot. It has a very contorted posture. Here's another resistance work of art with the bird appearing again on the right side, apparently singing and accompanied by a whale. Why do you think she included a singing bird in this work? And this work really grabbed my attention because of the central blue figure. This figure appears to be on a cross, which weighs the worthiness of two figures. Now notice the year of this piece, the year of Pinochet's coup. It too is a reflection of political events then of the time. Para has painted a portrait of Cecilia Vicuña. She was a poet, an artist, a filmmaker, but above all, an activist whose work addressed pressing concerns of the modern world, including ecological destruction, human rights, cultural homogenization. But Cecilia Vicuña was forced into exile when Pinochet took power, and this then is a tribute to her. So in Chile, art serves not only as a mode of expression, but as an essential tool for organizing and mobilizing movements. Chilean artists have faced censorship, yet continue to challenge authorities through their works. Santiago de Chile's emergence as an art mecca is no accident. It is the result of an historical struggle, of resilient creativity, as well as a conscious investment in a culture of art used as a tool for both reflection and transformation. From its institutional platforms to the city's graffiti-covered walls, Santiago offers a compelling portrait of how art expresses all the complexity of colonized lands. And of course, Santiago is itself a work of art, as you saw in the first image of its skyline and its dramatic setting against the Andes. But it's also a work of art in progress, a city where the past is never far away, but the present is also charged, and the future always remains vividly imagined as well. Well, I hope some of you took a few notes of reflection on some of these artworks. I'd love to hear your thoughts and impressions of what you saw. So the floor is now open.
Hey, Waverly, it's Marco.
Hey, Marco.
By mere chance, I have a few friends who are from Santiago, or from Chile, from Santiago. And I've never been there, but they send me a lot of articles, pictures, and stuff about the city itself and its art scene. And I can say the cities must be really beautiful, a bit like, same kind of natural setting as Denver, a plain surrounded by these crown of mountains. And the art scene seems really, really lively. There are a lot of different artists with different way of expressing themselves. And it all stems from the renewed freedom of expression, because for so long years, every form of dissent had been silenced. And the only way in those years to try to talk was doing art.
Mhm.
Art was a silent form of expression, but it was so meaningful in the way it was expressed.
It was dangerous too.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people simply vanished.
Yeah.
And now instead that they can enjoy, the same level of freedom of other Western countries, art really bloomed, exploded really. And they have a really, really lively and nice art scene and a lot of very interesting artists. I think it's really a nice place for art lover to visit.
Oh yeah, I would love to visit Chile, absolutely, and see the Andes as well. One thing about these Latin American countries is there's so much mural art. I almost think now the murals in the public spaces outnumber the art that is in museums and galleries. There's so much of it, which is, and as you can see, it's of a very high quality as well.
Yeah, they are.
Thanks, Marco.
Waverly,
Yes.
I really appreciate this, really for me, an introduction to Chilean art. And although I've heard of Mata and seen a few of his paintings, I wasn't familiar with anything else. And I was looking again at the this tree of life, or the tree with the flowers and the purple head at the
Yeah.
bottom. And it seems like the tree is coming out of the head. Oh, that may be a anthropomorphic projection there, but it seems like the darkness for me is like the magic of underground, of the vitality of the soil and the roots of a tree, which we're discovering is so interconnected with other trees, and this flowering that we see as its beauty is a small part of its overall life. And somehow that purple color is like a mystery. I don't understand that. So these are beautiful, and I really appreciate seeing them.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if that head at the very bottom was supposed to be Violetta Parra's head, or is it just an androgynous sort of universal head, or what? I didn't know if it was a particular person, wondering if that would give it more meaning, a particular meaning. But you're right, it just that tree seems to merge from the head of the person. Um, and then this right arm that you assume is also a part of that person who's been sort of dismembered. It's just a fascinating work. It invites reflection, that's for sure.
Those flowers in the tree look like those candles that people hold in processions to me.
Oh, yeah.
Um, that painting, Roberto Mata's On the Edge of a Dream, do you know what medium he used for that? It looks like pastel to me.
Let me go back to it here. There.
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I really
It
like that.
does look a little bit like pastel. My assumption though is that it's oil, but I can't be 100% sure.
Yeah, and if it's oil, I'm going to change how I paint.
Yeah, it's fascinating work, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's really
yeah,
magical.
yeah. I really like this piece.
It almost looks like a July 4th fireworks underwater, exploding
Ah,
with clams and oysters or whatever exploding as a
right,
result.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Waverly, hey, it's Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Um, Teresa's trying to signal.
You're not talking into the phone.
Oh, I was supposed to be talking into the screen here. I was holding the phone and talking into that.
Yeah, well, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. The earlier works that were, from the 30s, and clearly,
like some of these works.
yes, exactly. Even though this is after they start going to Europe and seeing postmoderns, these look very much like American Ashcan school and American realist paintings.
Yeah. No,
They
right.
actually look more American than they do European.
Yeah, many of these artists went through New York City. And as you know, in the 1920s, that's when this modernist art style began in America. And remember, championed by Gertrude Vanderbilt, Whitney. Remember? So that
Yes,
presented before. But yeah, it's art just like this.
yes. It's very, very attractive. I mean, this painting right here is spectacular.
It really is.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
kind of reminds me of Edward Hopper.
Yeah, I am curious. What about her expression?
Um,
Do you have any thoughts about that? What could be going
yes,
on?
she is exhausted from contemplation or
Or she's just has had enough of Camilo Mori, her husband. The
that's
artist.
probably more likely the
Right
case.
up to here, she's had it's like I got to get on a train, I got to get out of town, I got to get away from you
I
for a
need a
while.
lawyer.
That's right, or something like that. Maybe I don't know, but very pensive. Maybe she's it's sort of a determined but slightly pessimistic political stance about women's right to vote that's going on at this time in Chile. I don't know.
Right. So on the mata on the edge of a dream,
Yeah, let
uh,
me go back here.
that picture sold for $500,000, and Mata's auction record is over 5 million. Just a smidge over. So clearly, and I mean, he sold in a lot of American auctions. Um, Clearly, a really viable uh, Chilean artist,
Oh, absolutely.
internationally known.
Yeah. Violeta Parra's works also are increasing in value substantially. She had kind of been forgotten after her Louvre exhibit, at least forgotten in European and New York art circles, but she's being rediscovered as many women artists are again. So unfortunately, there was a period where you could have gotten a bargain. You could have bought low, but and I guess maybe with her work you still can buy low. I don't know, but it's on the rise. You already missed the basement level prices of her work. Thanks, Patrick. All right, anybody else have a comment or question? All right, then. Well, thank you very much for your attention and for attending this. I hope you enjoyed this visit to Santiago de Chile. Maybe it has inspired you to visit it one day. It is stunning. I'm going to go back to that skyline vista right at the beginning, right there. Um, Beautiful setting, obviously, otherworldly setting, but also spectacular art and beauty within this city, not just looking beyond its borders. So, great place to visit. So, yeah, if you ever want to do a South American tour, make sure you include Santiago. All right, everybody, thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week where we visit Buenos Aires, Argentina, where we'll conclude our Art Meccas of the Americas series, okay? And again, reminder about the about this. Art Pilgrimage Inquiry Meeting to Philadelphia, possibly in the fall or later, and DC. That'll be Tuesday, July 8th, a Zoom call at 10 a.m. or 4 p.m. I'll send out an invitation, but let me know, those of you who are very interested in attending that, let me know which time you prefer on Tuesday, the 10 a.m. or the 4 p.m. Or let me know if you are interested but can't make either one of those times on that day, all right? All right, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next
Thank
time,
you.
okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Waverly. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Mercedes.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Bye.